What's up guys, welcome back to a brand new video. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how I would make melodies for artists like the Kid LAROI and Justin Bieber, something along the style of Stay. Super cool song, and this loop that I made kind of reminds me of it, so I'm going to break it down for you guys today. And if you're interested in this loop or any of the other loops that I will be breaking down in my tutorials moving forward, you can be added to my weekly melody list. I send out about 12 melodies per week, and it's $20 to be permanently added to the list. And then also, if you're interested in even more loops, I have my Panoramic loop kit. I'm going to link that down below in the description. It's $15 for 18 loops, I believe. In honor of Cyber Monday, I'm going to give you guys a 50% off if you use this code right here. And that code also applies for all of my kits on my BeatStars. If you want to stay even more up to date with what's going on in my life right now, follow me on Instagram at GavinHadley_. And without further ado, let's get into things. The first thing I'm going to do, like usual, is play you guys the loop. As you can hear, it's super atmospheric sounding. There's a lot of different layers going on, and now we can get into the breakdown. So it actually starts with this super random, interesting technique. You put a piece of paper on your guitar that like interlocks in the strings. Like you go over one string and then like under the next, and it creates like an interesting like bit crushing sound. I saw it on TikTok, and I thought, why not try it? So I tried it, and it creates like a cool bit crushing sound, but it also makes your guitar sound like a little bit more twinkly. I have the same chord progression layered 4 times. Twice is with this technique. I double track those guitars, and then I have an acoustic, this guitar without this playing the same chord progression, and then I have an electric doing the same thing as well. So the chord progression is super simple, relatively the same shapes. Instead of really trying to go in depth showing you guys my fingers, because I know that's fairly unhelpful, I'm going to put the chord diagrams on the screen right now. Those are a super easy way of learning chords. That's how I learn like almost all of my chord shapes. So if you don't know how to read them, just look up how to read chord diagrams. It's super easy. You'll be able to learn it like that. And yeah, so first chord is this chord, and then we just slide up 2 frets, play the same thing, and slide up another 2 frets, and then put finger down right here, and then we slide all the way down to here with that same shape that we used and go like this. That is what I did for all 4 of the guitar layers, and then from there it honestly gets pretty simple. That's like all the guitar broken down. In my last tutorial, I talked about the strategy that I've been using, where I've actually just been singing into the microphone and then using Melodyne to take the notes that I'm singing and transfer them to MIDI. If you guys are interested in that technique, again, it's going to be right here. I talked about it in my last video, so I won't talk about it as much today, but basically it's a super good technique, and I've used it in like almost literally every single one of my loops, and it's been getting some really cool melodies for me. So yeah, that's that. I'm gonna mute all of these, talk about the effects that we put on the guitars before we move forward and talk about the MIDI elements. So this is a double track guitar. One is panned hard left and one is panned hard right. And as you can hear, it gives like a super spacious sound here. And I just really like the twinkly sound that this gives. Normally you would see me put a lot more effects, but really all I did was add an EQ and just take out a little bit of the low frequencies. This is what it sounds like before and after. Honestly, you can see like we're barely taking anything out. So yeah, I just left that sound super pure and super crispy sounding. And after that, we can move on to our main acoustic guitar that is not double tracked. It doesn't have the paper on it. This is what it sounds like without effects now. So the first thing I did was put on an EQ, just taking out a harsh frequency right here and then dropping the low end a little bit. An Echo Boy with the dark echo can preset. I think this just gives it a more like synthy sort of sound in a way. It brings in some frequencies that aren't there in the actual guitar recording, so that's why I used that. It also widens it up a little bit and gives it a little bit of a delay with this preset from Echo Boy. I used a crystallizer, muffled up octave, all-time favorite crystallizer preset, and then I have an Ozone 8 Elements. I widened it just a little bit because this first double track guitar was so stereo that I didn't want to have this guitar be just totally mono, so I wanted to blend it in a little bit just by using the Ozone 8 Elements, because when something's super stereo and then something's super mono, they don't necessarily blend the best together, so I was just trying to blend it, make them sound a little bit more cohesive together. We have this electric guitar. I didn't know if this was going to be worth it, but I just decided why not record it. Basically, this is just here to give it a little bit more grit and low end, and the only thing I have on it is Archetype Corey Wong using the Fat Strap preset. I just wanted like a beefy guitar sound that was just kind of subtly in the background, giving it a little bit more of that beef that it didn't really have, because the first two guitar sounds are kind of twinkly. So yeah, that's what it sounds like. Now we can get into the rest of the melodies. So I didn't want to do anything too complex because we're at 140 BPM. As you can hear, this chord progression is arpeggiated super fast. So I don't want to go in and try to add a bunch of melodies at that same speed because it's just going to sound too much. So I wanted all of these melodies that I was doing here moving forward to be a little bit more slow sounding. This is the first one that I added. It's a guitar. Looking back on it, I should have put an EQ to take out a little bit of low end because sometimes you can't hear that stuff when you have all the other guitars going, so I didn't quite get that, but this is what it sounds like without effects. I'm doing that right now. I put some Valhalla on it because I really wanted it to be drowned into the background. After that, I have a crystallizer, muffled up octave again. That delay, alter boy, just to give it a more like hyper pop, sort of distorted, just like interesting texture. A love filter to kind of throw it in the background a little bit more because again I kind of wanted it to be tucked, and then an archetype Corey Wong just to give it a little bit more presence because when you tuck something in that much it kind of becomes rounded out in the mix. So I have this push strat preset on to sort of bring it back a little bit. I guess I talked about in my last video about call and response melodies, so I guess I'll do it again here. Like, this is a super interesting thought. I was thinking about it before I was going to sleep yesterday. You know, like when you're talking to someone and the way that they finish talking, you don't quite know if they're done talking or not. I feel like you guys have all been there where you've been in a spot where you've been talking to someone and they just like stop talking, but they're done talking, but they don't like finish with like a tone in their voice that makes it sound like they're done talking. You can kind of apply that to music. At least that's kind of how I think about it. Like when I'm making a melody and it just doesn't finish how I want it to finish, it doesn't like give me a sense of completion. It doesn't really sound concluded, and I'm waiting for something else to give it that sense of conclusion. And it overall, like, just the power of a good sense of conclusion in a melody, for me at least, is what I like to focus on when I make all of my melodies. So as you can see with this one, I'll play it. Ba, ba. That last note sounds super concluding, and like last notes are really, really important for me. I feel like all of my melodies that I like are kind of wave shaped. They go up and down. After that, we have this one right here. This is just intervals. I talked about it in my last video as well. Just picking out two strings on the guitars that I like and making a little bit of a melody with them without really moving my fingers too much. Maybe moving a pinky up on the higher string, just like 2 notes. Effects that I put on that: crystallizer, muffled up octave, Echo Boy, the choral wobbler preset. Again, it's like the dark echo cam that I used before. It gives it more of a frequency that gives it kind of more of a synth sound while still being a guitar, obviously. And then we have a Fruity Reverb 2, Micro Shift. I really like this plugin. This is what it sounds like before and after. It gives it like more of like a bouncy sound. It reminds me of like a bouncy ball for some reason. Then we have a Tube Screamer just to give it a little bit more of tack and distortion before and after. So that's that sound, and then we can get into the keys. I sang in this melody, and I liked it a lot. No need to play it without effects because it just doesn't need to be played. The effects on it, we have a Fruity Reverb 2, just drowning it out with the reverb. The dry is all the way down, as you can see. An Echo Boy, the Dirt Echo preset to give it some distortion. A Fruity Love filter in place of an EQ. A lot of the times I use an EQ. I just take out a lot of the high end, maybe boost a certain frequency in there, and then I take out most of the low end as well. We have some auto tune on it, and then we have little alter boy again all the way up, just giving it like a distorted sort of different hyper pop sound, and all of that put together creates that sound that you just heard there. I put it in Melodyne, got that same exact melody out with a piano. In this first part I have it pitched down an octave, and in the second part I have it at its normal octave. I like to do this in my melodies just to switch it up a little bit and give a little bit more options for the person using the loop too. So what it looks like, as you can see, it's kind of wave shaped. We go up and down and up and down and down and up and up and down, and then really up and then back down. This just again came from my voice. I find that it's the easiest way for me to make melodies that are unique like this. Like I can never really make this something like this in the piano roll. Just like my voice can kind of just do its own thing. I don't have to think. I mean, for me, it's a super, super easy way of doing things. A lot of people talk about how they have troubles transferring stuff from their mind to the MIDI. If you can hear it in your mind, you can sing it. Then you can put it in a software like Melodyne. Added a guitar rig to distort it a little bit more, a Valhalla just to give it a bunch of reverb, and then a delay to help fill up space. Exported it out, so we have it right here now, and then we also have it here down an octave. This is what the down an octave version sounds like. Honestly, I like it a little bit more. I love the texture. We just have a piano following the root notes from our chord progression. I just went ahead and I made chords out of them. I wanted to come up with a little bit of a pattern in here. As you can see, I have these middle notes all the way up and up here, sort of playing like a second note right here. And I staggered these notes again just to help fill up a little bit more space and give it more movement. This is just super good in the background to help create like more of a sense of buildup. I feel like this sound would be super good when you are getting close to a drop or something, just from the way that these notes sort of bounce off of each other in combination with these chords right here. And in my chord progressions, I like a lot of times to have like a familiar element that's kind of bouncing back off and forth between each other. So you can see we have these Fs up here and then we have these D sharps, and throughout the entire melody they just go back and forth between each other. It could get a little repetitive, so to counteract that a little bit, I have this note underneath, and what this does is basically create a little bit of a harmony with this D sharp and give it a little bit of a different sound, even though these notes are bouncing off back and forth between each other the entire time. And also you can say the same thing with all of these notes. Actually, the F, this is just an octave. Then we have a G sharp with this F. Since those notes are so close to each other and then pitched up an octave, it gives it like a little bit more of a, how do I put it, just crunchy sound, but it sounds super, super good in this context. All these chords are just roots, and then the third, and then the fifth. And I put the third note, or the middle note, up an octave, as you guys can see, for all of this. Effects that I put on it, I used Effect Rack, I used the Dirt Slap preset to give it some distortion. I like my distortion, as you guys can see. Fruity Delay 3, put back the mix knob a little bit, and then an RC20 retro color to dirty it up. This is what it sounds like before and after. A lot of texture to that sound. I really like my texture as well. After that, we just have a super, super simple, I'll play it with the guitar chords so you guys can hear them in context. I wanted to come up with a little bit more of a melody for this first part of the second part of the loop, and I came up with something super, super simple. It's just octaves. We're cascading down the scale: F, D sharp, C, and then A sharp. And I'm using slides that sort of help transition down to the next note. We just have that, and then we have it down an octave here. And then I have all of the octaves down below here as well. And then for the second part, because we have a bunch more melodies come in this part, we have the piano solo and then the vocal as well. I wanted to keep it super simple and just have a slight little build up utilizing chromatics right here. That creates like a really, really cool sense of completion. A song that really uses that is Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo. Super good song. The effects that I put on this, I have an Echo Boy using the Garage Door preset, really cool distortion, a Fruity Parametric EQ2, cutting out some high ends and then some low ends. This is what it would look like if I were to EQ a vocal. We see we boost this frequency right here. An Echo Boy, the Flageolets preset to give it some interesting sort of detune sound. So it sounds like before and after. It's super turned down because if I would turn it all the way up, this is what it would sound like. Kind of just too much, so yeah, that's why it's turned down. This reverb, fill up space. You guys are probably getting sick of hearing it at this point. But as you can see, a lot of my effect chains are pretty similar, at least for what I'm going for. Normally, it's to create some sort of texture with distortion and then easing it up with a reverb. And then an Alter Boy. That is all the sounds, just a bass following the root notes from Analog Lab. And that is the entirety of the loop. Super, super unique. A bunch of options for the layout here. As you can see, we have all of these sounds. I like to keep my first part pretty simple, but I like to introduce one of my favorite elements of the loop in the first part to help catch the listener's ear. For me, it was that piano that I did, but I pitched it down an octave just to give it a little bit of a different sound. So when you get into the second part, then you're surprised with that higher octave. And then higher octaves really just, for me, help build emotion and just really kind of seal the deal with that second part of the loop. All of the elements working together. All it's missing is drums, and that's for obviously the person that is throwing drums on it to do. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you were able to learn something today. As always, feel free to follow me on Instagram at GavinHadley_. It's going to be a pretty interesting couple days. I'm actually about to go move right now to a different place for the next until December 20th, so under a month. Thank you guys for watching. As always, I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.